There is a saying of Jōshū, a Zen monk or Zen master, who said something like, people get used by the time, but I use time. I think you can replace the time to brain. So he used the brain, but not to be used. What does that mean? You can think about it. I've known that saying for a long time, but I start to know more about it, what it means. Let's see if we can capture the essence of it. When I said use the brain, not to be used, that's simple. But how does it apply to the time? Not to be used by the time or the clock, the deadline. So he should have a very clear view of how to use the time, which is take time when it's necessary, but don't take time when it's not. So if I use the Charlie Munger's idea of invert, or my book about the waste elimination, don't use time for processing things or creating a quality problem. Those 7 waste and 8 waste that I talked about relating to Toyota production system, but the worst waste, I say, is the not utilizing our talent. So time is critical to live life, for us to make the most of it. So instead of chasing this and that, the invert idea is to not to do things when it's unnecessary. But you have to know what's unnecessary, the waste. So if I can just ramble on this, I also put these words in my book, New Manufacturing Challenge. The manufacturing is producing something, so it's producing value. Or you can convert into making the best of resources, including your time. So, what did I say? Simplify, combine, eliminate. So eliminate is the same as invert. And if you couldn't eliminate, combine or simplify. Eliminating delusion is one of the most critical things we can do using a mind. But to do this elimination of delusion, we need not to rush or jump into conclusion or waste time to solve problem which is not the high priority. It should be obvious. And for that to happen, we have to know what's important and what's not, or what's urgent and what's not. And to have that sense of what's important, I was recently talking about transparency and the circle without the center. And the point of that was, and if I can reconstruct what I said, it's related to, let's say, center without, no, the circle without center means you don't have the specific focus. So your mind is very open, empty, transparent. And I said 2 saying from, again, Zen. It's kind of easy because it's very intuitive if we get it. And one was the Rinzai saying, Mui no Shinjin, no ranking of true self. The true self doesn't have any distinct question of what it is. So it's very unknown, so to speak, or nothingness. And in nothing is everything is what this whole universe is. If you have nothing, you have the whole universe to relate to. If you have something, you go against something. So, mui no shinjin, no ranking, no distinction, no position, no center of the circle is the way. And this is maybe a little bit too much, but what it means basically is like a samadhi, empty mind, no thinking, no ego. No ego. That's very critical, that if ego has it, there's opponent. Then you have this tangling up situation, creating delusion. But if you don't have that, you see things as it is, absolute state of being, absolute state of being outside, on the inside. So that's one with Rinzai. The other one is Dōgen. I mentioned about to know the way is to know yourself. To know yourself is to forget yourself. To forget yourself is to be one with the way of the universe, or something like that. And there's one more sentence, but I don't usually get down to that. But it may say that that's how everything is manifest. And in that sentence, to know that ourself is to forget ourself, which is the same as no ego, no thinking. That's samadhi. When you are in that state, you are empty. And when you are in that state, you are one with the way of the universe, which is connecting to heart. It's as simple as that. But that's just a construct of the logic to explain, but it doesn't mean you have the experience of it. And if you don't have experience of it, you don't know when to use it. So when you are at the state of absolute being, no mind, no thinking, empty, transparent, you see everything as it is. And when you are in that state, you know how the world is operating, so to speak, because you are just observing without any position. And then you may find the opportunity or way how the thing's gonna go, because you're observing as everything as it is. It's like you're running to chase or run from the enemy, or chase for prey. When that situation pops up, the whole world has some meaning for the world to move on from the point of the person or the animal. So he just take action. What's important? Because he need to eat, he need to have the energy and pursue his mission to be that animal. And as much as animal would do that, human has the same element in us to do the same. So without obstructed to this idea and that idea, if you are full with intuition to know what's going on, when some stone is throwing into you, then you duck, because that's the experience and how we cultivated your skill to that point. And if you haven't, then you got hit. So the next time you do a better job, and that experience is providing us the skill to deal with the situation as needed. What's needed is the universe has provided us the skill to live and live better, and we are to move forward, evolving to acquire the skill and be. So it's the nature's way in relation to the animal, but the tree goes through the same. Tree, branches, leaves, broken down, adjust and move on. Relating the sun and the water and the storm, the wind, they figure out. So it's like Tai Chi or the Aikido, that Aiki means meeting the life energy to prevail in the most appropriate manner that is found from the way of nature that developed us. So what does that mean? When you are a master, you don't think. You can just know what to do and not to do. That's the level of transparency and knowing what's important, what to do. And that is different from the mind, the brain operating, because it's more about nature's way. So mind has the root in this nature's way to be connected and expand that mind function in the direction where we don't waste our time and energy. So it was a long story to talk about Jōshū. I use my time not to be used. He just said that, or something like that. I don't know the detailed expression. I can study it and then put it into the description. But it got stuck with me. Maybe 30 years or so. I mean, it's one of those things that you read and remember, oh, this is interesting. But to know that in reality means you can act on that basis, so that the knowledge is connected to the experience, triggering us to respond appropriately. And more we do that, we can live better, adjust to the situation with insight or intuition, but also using the brain. So when he said, I use time not to be used, it's very profound. And when he's not to be used by the time, is what? He just stays silent. Because if he doesn't know what to do and the intuition doesn't come, like the animal, they're not running around any direction because his mind says go that and go that because this is the opportunity and that. But if there's no indication, the intuitive sense to connect to that, the cat and the lion, or alligator, or the fish, just be aware of what's going on. So the awareness, let's call it also awakened state of awareness, would have this whole Zenkigen, the whole possibility, the skills to come out. And that's in line to the way of nature. That is also to prepare for whatever to come. And the preparation can be done, but it may encounter dangerous animal that you didn't know before. If there's just such an example, or some threat, climate change, some new political system. So that's where we want to be intuitive instead of too late to find, given the situation. So that's, to me, is the insight, wisdom, not in the process of the knowledge, because it's just still in the knowledge base, but not connected to the experience to indicate the possibility, the intuitive sense of what to do. So you have an intuition, you move in that direction, and then you keep adjusting. And that's when you can remember this word. People get used by the time or mind, but he used the time and the mind. That's the mastery of life as human being, as animals, and for their evolutionary process to do better. So that is to connect to the God, if you like, or the way of nature to face any challenges that may come. Meteorite, volcano, political upheaval. And the one who can prepare well, and all the species that can prepare well, will last long, evolves in line to the needs to face the reality and relate to the internal growth revolution process that is happening from the beginning of the time for each species to develop and expand like a tree of life, and we are one of them. So the awareness of that state of awakening is to perceive and figure out what to do, including not doing anything, but be prepared. I think that's what it means. I'm not used by the time, but I use time. Let's say if you are working and you have meetings, so you're confined by the time because the society's construct, then that's the external issue that you have to relate to that. Whether you attend or not, prepare to attend, all that stuff has to be done in the manner to not waste your time and energy and the logic or whatever, but in tune to that. And out of that, you find the passage. Let me just add a few more things because something popped up. I thought about people living long time, and they seem to know what it is. I feel they are very intuitive, in line to the nature's way, but built on it to choose the right occupation, like a painting or the justice of the legal, the court, or politicians or managers or, sportsmen or anybody. So there is that root connection and the living wisdom to come toward what they found is important to live their life. So they're happy in what they do, and they can spend time, or they may face difficulty, but they digest, go over the hurdles, because they have that energy, the skill, develop, and awareness to go with it, to choose what are the options, and choose what are the resources, and bring out the most of what you can. That's what I think. I don't know what I said, but when I said it, I think it made sense. So the intuition is like that. Comes first, and then you are to use the brain to sort things out, put together, so that, like doing this YouTube video, I am to process it and reflect it and capture it and be ready for the future. It's like a CAPD, check, act, plan, do. Something happens, check what has happened and what is happening, figure out with samadhi state to situate, to go, or what threat and how to deal with it, and make a move, plan and make a move, and then move on accordingly. Our living process is kind of like continuation of that. And as we grow, as we make mistakes, we have a feedback system to learn CAPD if we are attuned to that. So I think that's the basic message. I may come back to the same kind of a logic, but the bottom line is that to have the logic to be in play, to live life, it requires continuous learning, CAPD, Shila Samadhi Panya, have the samadhi at the core of our being, and spend time accordingly, wisely. I think that's what it is. We'll see if we can, or I can, practice it, which is always in the now, to move forward. Thank you.